Yes.
Yes.
We are here again. It is a happy hump day, and especially happy hump day for me because I do not have to work on Friday, so this is actually like Thursday for me.
Woo.
Woo! So give it up to all the working people out there, all the people whose labor has produced this holiday that I am about to partake in, and my labor, because we are all working people in the Vincent household. I am Inyaze Vincent, and I am joined by... Oh, that's not how I do it. No, the way we do it is... Peace and blessings. I am Inyaze Vincent.
Hi, everybody. I'm Melissa.
Oh, God. You always got to be the renegade. I love it. That's why I married you. Never the conformist.
Oh, what did I not conform and do?
Salutations or something.
Oh. I didn't realize that was a real thing that we had to do every week.
Well, if we don't...
I literally didn't even... Sorry. Okay.
No, I mean, it's fine. If it's not a thing, then we don't do
it. It was perfect. I looked up and I was like, oh, good. No one can see me.
Oh, I see. My bad.
Unless that I'm doing my hair, but that I still am racked by allergies today. I just took a shower. My eyes are red. It's always coming.
Death is always coming. And that is a great way to segue into this edit point. And I have to turn Mel up because you can barely hear her because she is not talking directly into the mic. So yeah, I said a lot of great things, super great things that will never be repeated exactly as I said them. But unfortunately, you will never hear them because I did not quite do the thing where I hit record to record it. So I'm going to try to remember what I said, but I think more importantly, I should say, welcome to Woke with Kids.
Yeah, I don't even think we ever said that.
That's important. Welcome to Woke with Kids, episode 102, I think. One, of course. Of course it's 101, because last episode was the super big episode 100.
That was completely
just
normal.
Like every other episode.
Completely not a big deal as far as our content.
Absolutely, 100%. Although I have been talking to some people about doing some interesting things with the podcast. So, anyways, but I want to get into that. I will show, not tell. What I do want to say is peace and blessings. I am Inyaze Vincent, and I am joined as always by...
Hi, I'm Melissa.
Yes.
And I'm supposed to say greetings and salutations.
Right, but we don't have a thing on this show, so that will never necessarily be a thing. And now that I know that, that's fine, because I've recently learned that I am a creature of habit and a process-driven person, and that is okay, and I'm learning to love myself more and more and accept all the intricacies of myself. But
self-love is the best love.
Self-love is really the best love. If you don't start with yourself, you really won't have anything for anyone else.
Sorry, guys.
No, that was wonderful. What do we call that? Sniveling or sniffling?
Oh my God, sniffling.
I know, but we didn't record that part. That's why I brought it up, because it was such a good misunderstanding.
Could skip. It's not.
Such a good misunderstanding.
We could skip the whole part where is Melissa sniveling? We just skip all of that. And we just clarify right off from jump. No, Melissa is sniffling because she's suffering from seasonal allergies, and the god dang 24-hour drug that I took never really kicked in.
Right. Exactly. Although it works for me every time. I don't know what to tell you. So, like, if you guys want to endorse me or pay us some money to talk about it, I will happily talk about it.
CVS brand. I don't think they're your non-brand name.
Generic.
Your generic.
My generic
product.
CVS brand.
Sure
I think CVS wants to get behind me. I think
sponsorships, but hey.
Look, you got to live in hope. My point being is that we all live in hope because, guys, I want to talk to you about the news, but I just wanted to say, and before I was rudely cut off by the fact that I did not record the first take of this podcast, I just want to talk to you about the fact that there's some of the best news isn't even news, isn't even stuff that you would think of as being news, but it is news because it is real and because it is the bigger story that is going on. And that story, in a nutshell, is that in 1 billion years, the planet Earth will be too hot for human beings to live on it. Do you understand what I'm saying? If not, let me explain some of the science, okay? Just a tiny bit. The Earth orbits the sun, right? And the sun is a star, and it's hot, and it radiates heat. And as it gets older, the strange thing is, is that as it gets older and nears the end of its lifespan, it's actually heating up quite a bit. You can Google this. If you don't have to trust me, you can go ahead and ascertain the facts and cite some sources. All right. The sun is heating up, and in 1 billion years, it will actually be too hot in the current parking space of Earth in the solar system for life, any life, not just human beings. We're not just talking global warming here. We're talking too hot for living things to exist on the surface of the Earth. And I just think that's something to keep in mind in terms of what time it actually is. 1 billion years seems like a super long time, right? And maybe it is. I don't know. I've never had $1 billion. I've never had $1 billion of anything except cells. Okay. But that being said, I think that it's important that we realize that not everything is politics. Not everything is our sport of choice, is our game of choice, you know? Because as much as I love to come on the podcast and shoot the shit with my beloved about the machinations and goings on of politics, what it boils down to is really we're just discussing Game of Thrones. You know, we're just talking about the acquisition of power amongst people who are concerned with the acquisition of power. And it's not necessarily a conversation about the welfare and the happiness of actual human beings, right? So I think it's important to remember that every once in a while, because even though I am an armchair pundit and I do like to pontificate, at my heart, there is a higher calling to this. There is a higher reality that informs all of the sort of scurrying and going about of all this terrestrial, nationalistic activity. That being said, I personally have no problem acknowledging and sending my condolences and best wishes to the McCain family of Arizona, who just lost the patriarch of their family, I'm sure the cornerstone of their extended clan, John McCain, who was a senator of the United States Senate, who was a former Navy pilot, who flew dangerous missions during the Vietnam War. Yes. Vietnam War.
He was captured.
Was captured by the enemy.
POW for 5 years, I think it was.
And he was a POW for 4 or 5 years because even though he was the son of an admiral and he was offered early release, he thought it would be bad morale for the other POWs, and so he refused to be released early and stayed with his people. Okay? I don't care what you think of his politics. And believe me, they were terrible. Okay? They were horrible politics, okay? Bad politics. Pro-Iraq war. Yes, bomb him. He was all about that. Tough on crime. Yes. Was he against Martin Luther King as a holiday? Yes. All of these things. Bad politics. I disagree. I'm going to take a very, very brave stance as a black progressive liberal guy and say I am against guys who don't believe that Martin Luther King should have his own holiday. All right? That being said, if you can't respect the grit, the raw grit of a man who would refuse to go home, even though it was laid out in front of him, and then was punished and brutalized and had his bones broken and shit, I mean, I think you're doing it wrong. That's all. I think you're doing this shit wrong, and I think you're not evaluating things correctly. You have to have some esteem for your enemy. If you don't have some esteem for your enemy, then you don't really properly know what kind of fight you're in for.
I think in his passing, what struck me or became notable to me is that he seemed to be a guy who was able to say, you know what, I think I was wrong on that. Like the whole idea that skipping out on being tortured would send the wrong message about the war. He could look back and be like, yeah, Vietnam War probably wasn't a good look. Same thing with Iraq. He later came out and was like, yeah, I'm not too glad that I totally supported that. And in other ways where he was able, of course with hindsight, but I mean, we currently have a president who is incapable of admitting any wrongdoing or mistakes in the past. So I think there is no room for growth if you can't admit when you're wrong. And McCain seemed like a guy who was willing and able to hold himself accountable. I think that's what I realized I might respect the most about the guy.
I like that.
Because he did have some very bad politics. I mean, he allowed Sarah Palin to be put on the ticket.
I almost forgot.
As his running mate when he ran for president. And I was listening to, I don't know, maybe KPFK, and they were commenting that at that time, I guess this was 2008, or was it 2012? I don't remember.
Well, he ran against Bush first, so that was...
Okay, so it was 2008. I mean, 2012, or whatever.
2004 against Bush.
No, when did he run with Sarah Palin? Wasn't it? It wasn't against Obama.
No, you're right. It was. That's with Obama. That's 2008. You're right. Okay. You're absolutely right. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So, sorry, sidetrack. Basically, there was a lot of the essentially what we are calling out as white supremacy. There was a lot of that undertone at his own rallies.
Yes.
But, you know, as a culture, we weren't calling out systemic racism and white privilege and white supremacy. And people weren't quite as bold as they are now under Trump's administration. But again, you know, by adding Sarah Palin to the ticket, he kind of brought out some of those extreme racists and people who were basically willing to become violent to support their beliefs. So, again, there was a lot to criticize there.
Yeah,
with that guy, and he didn't say, you know, in terms even me saying like, oh well, he was able to admit when he was wrong. He never really came out and was like, yo, putting Sarah Palin on the ticket was the worst thing I ever did. I didn't find that quote.
I don't know anywhere. If he may not have said that, but the fact that he did not invite her to his funeral speaks volumes.
Well, there was a lot of that,
and so. I do think, and I'm not going to look it up, but you guys can Google it or Snopes it. But I do think that he did express regret for having her on as a running mate, if not only in terms of she was not prepared and that he exposed her to a situation that she was not, quite ready for. But also,
I think he thought he was paying people to vet her properly.
Yeah, I think that he was pandering towards a political win that he thought that would carry him to the White House, which at that time was the Tea Party. And you're right, it was sort of the seeds of this current
the alt-right
movement. Yeah, we didn't see it then, but actually
they were masked or cloaked within the Tea Party. But I mean, if they had to choose a new party to identify with, I mean, where else were they going to go?
Well, they were also the Tea Party. We have to remember was also sort of the hardcore economically minded wing of the Republican Party. They were the ones that were saying we had to balance the budget. We had to be we had to be essentially some sort of financial austerity. But they weren't necessarily the ones that were concerned with social conservatism or like abortion and that kind of thing.
I think now, basically,
but now it's all been conflated.
Economic woes. Now we're explicitly blaming it on immigrants, and people of color. So
correct.
That's where the merger happened. Yes. Then it was like, oh, well, we've got these people. We know they are. What is it? Economic. What did they call it? These economic fears. There was a whole phrase.
I know what you mean, but I can't remember.
Middle America, whatever. But
anxiety, economic anxiety.
Yes, and basically what Trump's campaign team did effectively was conflate the issues of the economic anxiety being felt by the middle class of any color here in the United States with an immigration problem that was not had not really been addressed in a way that provided safe access to citizenship or a larger deportation system. You know, Obama was doing it all kind of low key, or even prior to that, we didn't really know what was happening. We just knew there's a bunch of new whoever in the neighborhood. Yeah. And then, you know, it goes on and on and on. We're dealing with more and more terrorist attacks across Europe, and tariffs and global trade and all of that. So it was able to easily be mashed together and be like, this is the problem. I'm your savior. Elect me, which fucking people did. Because I think more and more, seeing as how it's playing out, I truly believe, because I've done it, you're in the ballot little booth and you get to a position that you're not totally sure what the candidates' positions are. Yeah. Or like even what the role is. You're like, oh God. And
what is this? What does this office even do? What do they even do?
So sometimes you vote, you guess, or you just go down the party line. And I literally, especially on the judges, I don't anymore because I see how important district judges can be to things that affect me and my life and my heart and what I worry about when I send my black son out to the world. But when I was younger, I definitely would have been like, fuck it, and just eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And I truly feel that a lot of people voted for Trump on a fuck it vibe. Like, how bad could it be kind of thing? Like, well, I don't know. He seems to have made money. You know what I mean? Just
well, you know, I'll add some nuance to that. I think that the people who voted for Trump, I don't think they were fuck it. I think they were like hardcore, like the last gasp of white supremacy. But I think that there were a great number of people on so-called our side or independents who voted for libertarian and or green candidates who were like, fuck it, how bad could Trump be? Because they knew that the people they were voting for were not going to get elected.
I think we got a lot of non-voters, a lot of just anti-Hillarys, people who voted for Green Party and voted for Libertarian. And a lot of that had an element of fuck it, we need some new shit.
Oh, and it's a good point. Whenever we talk about elections, whenever Hillary comes in, I think it's important to remind everyone, guys, she did win the popular vote. She actually got the most number of votes of people in the country to be president. So, and that's actually been like the last 6 elections that Republicans have won have like not been popular vote elections. Have you realized that?
Yes.
It's really becoming quite obvious.
Do you think? Sorry, go ahead.
Finish. No, you probably think
Congress will ever vote to eliminate the Electoral College?
Yes, actually, as a matter of fact, I do.
How many generations do you think it'll take?
I think it's going to be within our living generation. I think you and I.
What?
I think you and I will be old people to see this happen because, and the reason I say this is sort of it's a guess based on what I'm conjecturing as Moore's law of political progress, because what I've noticed is that things seemed, and I think because of technology and the speed of communication, the pace of change is faster.
Yes.
Than my parents' generation. Like my mom was born. I was born a Negro, right? But my mom was born a Negro. My mom was, I don't know, they probably just put nigger on the certificate. I don't even know what they put back in it. But my mom and your mom were born in a time where there was blatant segregation, outright segregation in America, and she has lived to see a time where now black people gather at a festival called Afropunk, and like shit has changed so diametrically from our day. I can't help but suspect, at least I haven't seen anything to the opposite. Like, no matter how bad the shit is going apparently in politics, black people are actually doing quite well. Entrepreneurship is up. I mean, it's kind of fucked up because normally if we had like a good president, I'd say, God damn, this president's doing a good job. But like, really and truly, the reason it's happening is because Obama was president, and we are living in the wake of his presidency. And also, black people in this country have been activated in a way that they never have been. They're infused with energy from Nigeria, from the continent. They're infused with energy from the Caribbean. For the first time, black people are waking up to their own beautifulness, their own power, their own specialness.
I wouldn't say the first time, but continue.
Definitely not the first time, but it's a cycle, right? And I mean, in our living memory, it's the first time that I remember. Like, I work with it. There are like 3 or 4 African people who were hired at our company, and we all see each other as the same now. You know what I mean? It's like we are all black, and no matter where we came from in the planet, we know what the fuck they think of us. And that's something that has not existed before in my living memory. And I think all I'm saying is that the pace of change seems to be such that I think by the time Langston and Ellison are our age, I think motherfuckers are going to be voting like with their thumbprint. I mean, if we don't have a nuclear war and we don't all kill each other, they're going to just be like going to a ching, and voting instantly through telecommunications. Because the only reason we can't do that shit now is because of security. But the fact of the matter is, there's really no security.
Yeah, and they could probably work out those details by then.
They'll figure it out. It could be the
possible.
blockchain. It might be the blockchain. It might be the shit that we're using right now for cryptocurrency. But I have a lot of hope in a general sense for the future, even if, in the short term, I think just like the sun is getting a lot hotter, I think racism is going to get a lot hotter because white people are not going to give up this sense of supremacy without a fight. Nobody does that. Nobody would do that. Nobody would give up being the top dog without a fight. So I expect white people, particularly white men of a particular background in class, to really cause a lot of fucking shit before we get to the goddamn, the Jehovah Witness promised land of the lion laying down with the lamb and all that shit. The happy fun lamb. Anyway, so we had a bunch of primaries on Tuesday, and it was cool. I mean, it was great. I thought it was great because Georgia and Florida Democratic Party have nominated black candidates, in Florida's case, for the first time ever.
Yeah, what's his name?
Andrew Gillum.
Yeah, that's very exciting that they might have a governor.
Amazing.
A black governor. I think especially as we continue to see how the stand your ground law is consistently not applicable for black people.
At all.
Under almost verbatim the exact circumstances that the white citizens in Florida are able to use this law to protect themselves from prosecution. So, and there already was, I think, a state senator who had already introduced a bill to freaking get rid of it. But,
we had a question.
Okay.
Sorry, I made it interrupt. Sorry, but we rarely get direct questions. Pedro Antonio asked on our live feed, so I had someone today told me that he will be reelected. I'm sure we're talking about Trump. What do you think? Do you think he's going to be reelected?
It's too early for me to guess. I feel like I could make a better educated choice after the midterm elections. I need to see which way is the tide flowing.
Right.
Are people up and voting? Are numbers down? Are youth going out? What are the numbers at the end of the day? Because, he's trying to redo NAFTA, so that's going to be encouraging to some people.
Right.
The fact that he is actually speaking with the Mexican president is progress on his part. Before, they were not even really communicating. I was hearing today, they want to try and basically handshake an agreement to say they're going to revise it and then get something signed within 30 days, which is like literally almost like the day before the new Mexican president starts. So they're on a deadline, and they're supposed to be bringing in, Trudeau on the conversation. So he's got his timeline of things that he kind of needs to get going in order to salvage some of the quote unquote goodwill or the good faith that his base has put in with, in him, in electing him. So depending on that, and I think also the midterm elections, do we take back the House? Do we take back the Senate? What's the governorship across the country looking like? Do we have more black women all over the place? What's happening? Then I would make a guess. I mean, if I had to guess right now, I would say yes, he would get reelected. The anger is not enough where people are in the streets, because even though the judge reinstated the Muslim ban, people aren't blocking airports anymore. The immigrant children, over maybe 500, still are separated from their parents. I'm hearing about it, but I'm kind of not hearing about it.
It's still happening. So the problem is that I think, well, in particular for that, I think the outrage has not lessened, but it has matured. You can't do the same thing and expect a different result unless you're crazy. So I think the fact that people are realizing that maybe, storming City Hall in downtown Los Angeles may not be the most effective way to actually affect change, because you're in fucking Los Angeles already. We agree with you. I don't know. So I think people are still outraged. I still see it out there, but we live in such a fragmented media sort of ecosystem that it's difficult for anyone to be claiming to have the total share of voice in terms of like what people are listening to or what people are saying. I personally think it's very simple that Trump will absolutely be reelected unless in this midterm we take back the House as Democrats, and we do not lose ground in the Senate, because I don't think that Trump is going to be impeached per se, but I do think that the Democrats have the stomach to inflict death by 1,000 cuts in the form of an endless series of inquiries, which drains the enthusiasm and the momentum of the Trump presidency, so that after Trump has finally done his 2 terms, we can get the savior in there. But I think his coalition is intact. I've seen no wavering in his poll numbers or his core support base. I think they think he's doing a fucking brilliant job, amazing job.
Think he's just getting started.
Yeah,
he's just getting his footing. I think also when Obama first got elected, not only was it just a historical moment, but we had the auto crisis. Mm-hmm. So it was like we were bleeding as a country profusely. Yeah. So Congress was willing to work with him to stop the bleeding immediately, as quickly as possible, and they had the auto bailout. Yep. And then I think we had like the whole Wall Street thing as well kind of come to light, and they were like, well, that's fucked up. Mm-hmm. So they worked together on that. And then basically for the entire next 9 years, they fucking fucked with him and made it almost impossible. I mean, the fact that the Affordable Care Act ever got passed is kind of amazing, actually.
It is.
Because that was the very last time that they actually, in my opinion, worked together.
No, they did.
That would benefit
but the Republicans
the majority of citizens.
But the Republicans did not work with the Democrats at all. It was forced through because the Democrats, for a sliver of time, had complete control of the government, and they used that very first time before they got to the midterms to do it. That's exactly what the Republicans have done. They passed the tax reform bill. Yeah. They shoved all this shit through because they have complete control of the government. If history repeats itself, they will lose that monopoly on government power in this midterm election. If that doesn't happen, I don't know what the fuck America is going to be anymore.
I think also, like we were saying, Trump has been trying to get a lot done in the first 2 years, because once you lose that beginning window where you control all the shit, it is almost impossible to really get the rest of your agenda through Congress.
Yes, by design. Right, we should bring up the problem that we're having in American government right now is a fundamental breakdown of the philosophy of the intrinsic impetus of what divided government is supposed to be. So what we have working against us is that each branch of government is supposed to be, if not antagonistic, independent, and aggressively a check against all other branches of government. Unfortunately, what's happened is that we also have this system of a duopoly of political power in the existence of two primary political parties, the Republicans and Democrats. I don't know what they were in the beginning, because it was something different and it's changed, but it's always two. And the fact that we have, we only have the Redskins and the Dallas Cowboys apparently means that if one party gets control of all the branches of government, then what is their loyalty? To their branch of government, to the country, or to their party? Or increasingly, what we're seeing, to lobbying money, to campaign money, to campaign financiers. All right. It's kind of ironic, but when I was growing up, the way they taught government to us, it was different. Back then, they had these thing called earmarks. And what your congressman did was they went to the House of Representatives and they said, all right, Texas, I'll vote for this bill if you support an earmark to send $10 million to Newport News to build some more fucking shipyard or something or whatever, right? And they would trade back and forth in the interests of the people, their constituents, the people they actually represented, in order to make that happen. Nowadays, they ban that, so now it's less focused on regional and local interests, and it's more based almost exclusively on party interest. What the party needs. And what the party needs ultimately is people to give money to support the party, to invest, to form super PACs, to put that cold hard cash out there to get their candidates elected.
When you put it that way, I don't want to vote either.
Real talk.
I totally get it. I mean,
real talk.
It is upsetting when people are like, "Oh, I don't vote. Fuck that shit." I get it. It's frustrating, because it's like, well, what other alternative do we have? Almost none. Other than just straight up anarchy.
Straight up Antifa, taking guns and dying in the streets.
But there is nothing to believe in. You know what I mean? Or
rather, the way that I would, I'd rather frame it is that there is nothing in the cup that you do not pour into it. There is nothing at the party that we do not bring to it. There is nothing in this. There's this country, as John McCain so eloquently put, is a nation of ideals, not blood and land. Right? That's what they want to convince us of. That America is nothing but the dirt we're standing on. Well, as a black man, as a man who is descended from people who were separated and deprived of basic liberty, I can tell you, it doesn't matter if you're fucking living on the dirt of America. All that matters is if you have the abstractions of justice and liberty and universal human dignity applied to you. All that matters is fucking dignity. None of this shit, physical shit, matters. I mean, it does, but it doesn't.
I don't know. I think that that's the cover story.
Go into it.
Because I think these people, the 1%, they don't give a fuck about the ideals. They want the money. They want the land. That's what everyone's fighting so desperately to hold on to, the actual resources. Somebody was saying, or I was reading about how, we celebrate Columbus and all of this like European expansion and these new worlds and basically everything that spawned colonialism. Like they wanted to share, their enlightened ideals. No, they were dying of diseases. I was reading how like Aztec and Mayan and Incan civilizations had aqueducts and they had, Egyptians had math and science and people in Europe were dying because they were throwing their sewer waste in the river.
Yeah.
They weren't bathing. Where these more primitive, quote unquote, civilizations supposedly needed this great white savior to come across the land and share their ideas. No.
Yeah, well, that's
they needed what these motherfuckers had. They said, go out and find something new to save us. Our people are dying, and only the monarchies had money. So that's the ideal. That's the story. Oh, let's go out and spread this enlightenment. Let's go out and spread these ideals. And that's how we'll present it. When really they just raped and pillaged for the literal resources.
No, you're absolutely right, but it's all in how you spin it, honestly, because you're right. Powerful people are always moving great masses of people whither and thither. But we were just talking about this before we got on the podcast. You could, if you look at the world as something that you control and you try to control it, I mean, you can go a long way that way. You can go a long way that way. But you know what you're not going to be? You're not going to be a relaxed. You're not going to be you're going to do it a lot of anxiety. Because if you think that you can control things, you're going to be super frustrated when you can't control things. All right? What I've noticed and what I've learned in my spiritual path is that things are going to be what they are. Personalizing the universe is not a healthy way to deal with the universe. The universe isn't here because of you, right? It's doing what it's doing. It's the ocean. It is moving. The currents are churning. You are on the ocean, right? So if you align your thoughts with where the ocean is going, with where the stream is going, you experience a sensation of control. Because you are in alignment with what is actually real. If you are always trying to force into being what is not coming into being, you will live a life of anxiety and fear because you are always trying to protect yourself from the real. And that is exactly the position that white people have put themselves in because they created this imaginary thing called whiteness. And now they have to live in the boundaries of whiteness. And they can't they can't venture beyond those boundaries. And it's frustrating. And many of them have just thrown their hands up and said, fuck it, I don't want to deal with this whiteness anymore. Or I'm willing to accept that it's not the paradise that I was sold. Right? But a lot of those people are still holding on to it, even though we know that that all the things that underpin underpin white supremacy are based on fictions. And recharacterizations of history, the Greek history, which was borrowed, quote unquote, from the Egyptians, all of this stuff. Anyways, we could spend a whole podcast on just sort of the hotepness of it all. Anyways, that was a great long fucking classic Woke with Kids tangent. What I really wanted to say was though, in Florida, our mans who was won the primary, he's going up against the guy DeSantis who Trump endorsed, and he tweeted or something or whatever they do these days, or maybe it was but he said about his opponent, in an interview with Fox News on the first day of the general election campaign, Mr. DeSantis, 39, who has President Trump's support, attacked Mr. Gillum's, our black national hero, his candidacy by painting him, I can't talk anymore, as a far left socialist. He said, the last thing we need to do is monkey this up by trying to embrace a socialist agenda with huge tax increases and bankrupting the state. He said, that's not going to work. That's not going to be good for Florida. Okay. Blah, 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 blah.
What?
Monkey?
I mean,
monkey?
I almost feel sorry for some white people. Like, they don't even hear themselves. And then when we're like, when you get taken down, you're like, I didn't mean it. I even saw on, Amanda Seals, my fave, somebody was commenting like, oh, y'all always trying to make something racist. Like, this is a common saying. People say it all the time when they fuck shit up. And Amanda, I love it. She was like, it's muddy it up, you dumbass. And this is my point, because whether it was a deliberate, quote unquote, slip of the tongue or, unconscious.
Nah, come on now.
You didn't fucking say what the fucking saying is.
Yeah.
You could have said muddy it up. And nobody would have batted an eye. But you saw a black person and your brain went, and you motherfucker said monkey it up.
Well, thank God.
And so I just need people to stop saying, what do you mean? Like, you
gotta stop. Basically, you gotta stop gaslighting. Okay,
stop
because
gaslighting every person of color you ever meet.
We're fucking hip to that shit,
especially
now.
The black people.
We've
been here a long time.
Oh my God,
black people have been here a long time,
and we see what you're doing. We know you
so
know.
You can't gaslight black people no more.
We know you know now. You can't pretend.
We always knew that you knew, and now it's obvious that you know. I mean, Trump said, "Grab him by the pussy." You know what I mean?
What white people still don't understand is that we know them better than they know us. Is that they do not? They really don't understand that shit.
That's part of, I think, the myth of whiteness. Because when you think about the history of slavery, what was it but white people living their lives and black people observing? Is
that what you're gonna do? Is that look massive?
But
look
watching and not being able to say anything. Not like, oh, my friend is tripping or my coworker's tripping and I'm a gossip about it, or say something to them, or they're going to ask me like, am I tripping? Am I drunk right now? It was your job to not say anything and to keep the secrets.
Yeah. You know what that means? You know what that's called in the scientific method? That means having a control. That means you are the control and they are the motherfucking variable.
And that, I think, is the one part of the equation they never really considered, whether in the whole system of slavery here in America, so whether it was at the point of actually enslaving people and taking away their liberties, or acting a fool in front of a whole culture and group of people, or quote unquote giving them freedoms but then continuing to perpetuate and terrorize them for generations. Like, at no point were they like, they know all our secrets.
Yes.
This might come back to haunt us because they know my great 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 granddaddy's secret. It just came out that the motherfucker who runs is it Jameson? No, or Jameson whiskey, or is it Jim Beam? One of them, like a huge whiskey company, learned the shit from a black dude.
Oh yeah. I think that is Jim Beam. That is American. Yep.
So
Yep.
Or that's like just bitch, like Emmett Till, the anniversary. Is it anniversary? That feels like the terrible name for it, but you're right, anniversary of his brutal kidnapping and murder just passed, and it's like that bitch came out talking about, oh, I lied. We know the secrets, or they are coming out. That's right. That is another part of what the entire society has to grapple with. This is where it's like, you're white, I'm black, whatever. We all live here, and it's all of our dirty laundry at this point. Yes. And unless some people are moving, unless Back to Africa is coming back in, Black Star Line, unless that's back up and running, we gonna be here.
Oh, that's open. They want us. That's open. I mean, they don't want us to. They don't want us to move to Africa.
And the white folks is not going anywhere.
No, the white folk ain't going nowhere.
America, fuck yeah. So the only way forward is to fucking start talking about the shit. It just has to happen.
Yes.
Spread the word. There's a lot of black people in this country that know all the white people's secrets. Look at Omarosa trying to come out. I mean, you can look at almost any
Omarosa
sector
is a metaphor.
Society.
Is a perfect metaphor for that. She's a perfect metaphor.
Look at every sector of society right now.
The spook who sat by the door.
The spook who sat at the top. Yes. And, these little cracks of white supremacy tumbling down. There will be a spook who sat by the door at the center of each and every one of these motherfuckers' downfalls.
Absolutely right.
So,
So I thought that was hilarious.
Wow, Omarosa, look at her coming back around.
Omarosa is coming to the cookout whether you like it or not. She is not worried about your opinion. She is getting her money and living her most
one other thing about
fabulous...
Andrew Gillums, the candidate, the Democratic primary candidate, or he's just now the candidate now. He won the primary.
He won the primary. He is now the candidate.
I think that he is a great example in addition to Alexandria, is it Cortez Ocasio? I'm totally fucking that up.
Right. That sounded right though to me. It's probably not
as good as it sounds coming out of her mouth, but
I don't know.
She also won her primary, and I think it's notable that both of them are self-identifying as progressive candidates as opposed to the cookie cutter standard Democratic candidate who had been running. So it is a slight glimmer of hope for me, especially in a place like Florida, Queens, New York. I get it. She went out and talked to her peeps and was like, hey, I see you. And they were like, oh, okay, bitch, I'll vote for you. I mean, that's that's not rocket science. That's literally like kindergarten politics. But same thing in Florida. It's saying these people do want, whether it's black or white, whatever color you are, we all want something different. We're all looking for something outside of the traditional. We didn't want Hillary. We didn't want
Yeah.
We didn't want...
We don't want Nancy Pelosi,
Who
honestly.
were all the other white dudes? We didn't want Christie. We didn't want fucking Mitt Romney. We didn't want Jeb Bush. I mean, he comes from a line of service.
A dynastic.
We didn't want John McCain. We didn't want John Kerry. We don't want... Sorry. You heard it.
We gotta watch out for the CIA. I didn't hear anything, but you know, you could be
we don't want the same to be old black is to standard politics as usual. So I'm encouraged by her nomination as well as this man's recent nomination as well. Well,
that's a great segue because speaking of unusual, Texas Republicans, Texas right now, there's a guy running. His name is Beto O'Rourke. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right.
Yeah, he's trying to beat Ted Cruz. Let's get it.
He's trying to beat Ted Cruz. Nobody loves Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz was the guy that tried to beat Donald Trump but then turned into his bitch boy after he lost and has been showing him his hind parts ever since.
Oh, God.
The Republican Party is basically a spineless mass of jellyfish now that John McCain has left. Now that John McCain has left... there's nothing left of the... But the Texas Republicans, or Ted Cruz's campaign, was trying to paint Beto O'Rourke as a drunk punk kid, okay? Because he used to be a punk rocker back in the day. And unfortunately, what these guys did not understand was that this is 2018.
Right.
And they were posting on the internet, on Twitter... So O'Rourke was arrested twice but not convicted in his 20s. A 1995 misdemeanor arrest for jumping a fence at University of Texas, filed as a burglary, and a 1998 misdemeanor drunken driving arrest in El Paso. That's dangerous and that's terrible. But who hasn't been there before? And here's the thing. And they were posting things. They basically the story was Beto wouldn't debate Ted Cruz or for some reason, whatever. So they were trying to paint him as like some irresponsible skateboarder who didn't have a lot of substance.
So, but people realize that he's 20 years older, right? Is that...
Well, no, what happened... Well, I don't even know about that.
Is anyone believing that we need to examine his 18-year-old life?
I think we live in a culture
where... Or
are
we just putting the word punk in there and hoping it gets some people upset?
Well, in Texas, who can tell? I don't really know. I've never lived in Texas, so maybe that's the way it works there, but...
Shout out to Texas. Hook 'em.
Shout out to Texas. Don't mess with Texas.
Longhorn, hook 'em.
No, yeah, I don't know.
Austin's a lovely place.
So I hear. But
I think Houston's nice too.
What happened was
H-Town. Sorry.
What happened is that everybody basically started talking about how awesome he was, and basically expressing how amazing it would be to have an ex-punk rock fucking young guy who's just doing, and trying to change fucking things, and so much so that the Texas GOP actually put out a Twitter that said after all this, Based on the reaction to our tweets, we can confirm that Beto is, in fact, going to receive 100% of the vote from BuzzFeed contributors, out-of-state liberals, and people who use the word rad. We feel very owned.
Look at them paying some young Republicans.
Come on now, Meghan McCain. Okay, Meghan McCain.
Getting some young Republicans
Somebody knows
on
how
the
to
team.
tweet and be sarcastic, be a little sassy.
Look at that.
Be a little sassy. You guys are cute. It's adorable.
Again, Trump was 1 in a million. He really was, and that's how he parlayed that into a win. Now,
the thing that people won't say about Trump is that Trump is one of ours. Trump is actually, I'm not saying he's a liberal or he's like on our side politically now, but I'm saying is that Trump comes from the same place that all my faves come from. He's a celebrity who
he's a scrappy guy from Queens who made some money. I mean, I totally get that. He just decided
to take the dark path.
There was no opportunity for him to run for president on the Democratic Party.
Correct.
But with so many cooks in the kitchen on the Republican side, he had a sliver of a chance. He had as much chance as all the other doofuses, basically. Because the Republican Party... this is a good point. Actually, because the Republican Party doesn't have superdelegates, it's set up in such a way that dark horse figures can make their way. Whereas the Democratic Party just voted to do away with superdelegates. Right. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Trump all along had something that none of the other Republican candidates had during that presidential year, and that was the celebrity factor. Correct. And I think more so than just the celebrity factor, it was the type of celebrity that he represented. You know, he was decisive. He was authoritarian. I think people in America want an authoritarian. That's why they voted for Obama. Obama was authoritarian. Every president is a surrogate father figure for the country. Yes, that's right. Or mother figure, but ain't nobody ready for that. One day. But as of right now, where we still go out and start wars and make wars and everything is decided with a firm handshake. And, that's right. You know, we still want a man to go out and represent us. So, they picked the tallest, biggest guy with the nicest suit. I mean, you know what? If Chris Christie hadn't fucked up that bridge thing, he might have had a chance, but he looked a little too fat. You know what I mean? Like Trump, like you said, because he had that Hollywood swag, he knew that's exactly what it clearly is. He is like the Beyonce of his world, where like he micromanages every aspect of his image. Another way to put that is the hair, the orange tan. Trump realized it was better he realized for himself that it was better to rule in hell than to serve in heaven. Is he a Virgo? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know. Anywho, we should look into the spiritual nature of Trump. I'll take a hard pass, but it's an interesting idea. But I think all of this kind of election talk, or Trump specifically, I'm kind of reflecting on what happened. I think it's taken me 2 years, almost 2 years, to even really be able to sit and try to have a critical thought process about what happened. How did he get elected without devolving into just like an emotional bucket of tears and fears? And I'm really hopeful that this midterm election will shed some light for all of us, one way or the other. I think most people just want to know, what the fuck are we? What country are we living in? Yes. For? What country are we living in? What can we kind of expect? Like, do we all need to get our passports? Like, is that where you need to put some of your money aside for, making sure you and your kids have your passports and that like ready to go money? Or are you going to be like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start investing. Yes. Or I'm going to go into beekeeping. I mean, like, we need to get a little bit of a sense of what the fuck do I need to do? Not just to survive, but possibly even thrive. And I think we're all aware that it's not going to be what we've been doing for the last 2 generations. That's right. It just can't be. It got us here. it got us here.
It got us here, but we have to...
fire. Yes. There's literally fires.
Yes.
That we are struggling to put out.
Yes.
Metaphorically and literally
in LA.
So, and all over the country. So we need to really figure out, like, maybe as opposed to just putting aside money for the fires, can we start to look at how to keep less of them from starting and burning out of control?
Well, y'all motherfuckers need to stop going out there with goddamn matches and shit. 60% of these wildfires are caused by human beings.
This last huge one in California was somebody's fucked up car.
I can't stand y'all. Sometimes I love y'all, but I can't stand y'all.
Let's talk about it. Rodeo is about to be Barack Obama Boulevard.
Oh yeah, I love this. Barack Obama.
We gotta move.
We gotta move to that street
or nearby, so we can be like, turn on Barack Obama, turn right on Obama Boulevard.
You know what?
And then you gonna hang a look. Actually, that's a nice rodeo. Feeds in out of Culver City into Baldwin Hills.
Listen, we just gonna give people direction. We gonna give people that direction no matter where they live. We gonna be like, you gotta go through.
Fuck the 10 freeway. You gotta take Obama Boulevard
to get to where we are. They be like, but I could just hop on. No.
You need to take the circuitous route around Culver City.
That's right.
But you get to ride.
That's right.
Oh my God, what about where Obama Boulevard meets MLK?
Oh my God. That's just like the blackest intersection in the universe, guys. Do you know how many Obama Boulevards are going to be in Maryland and Baltimore and DC?
Are they not already?
No, not yet, but soon. I mean, like, because you know what I'm saying? Like, we all want to rush to it, but Obama only been out of office a couple of years.
Visit LA again?
He's going to come. He's going to come. When it's time for that money, when it's time for the midterms, he's going to come.
See him. Like, I don't have no $35,000 a plate money.
He gonna give you that book. He'll give you that book. He'll come to some church. We don't go to that church that he gonna come to.
Well, let's just go to it.
We're just gonna go to that church.
If I could just touch the hem of his garment.
Here's some more yes y'all, because we're definitely some yes y'all right now. A Dallas jury finds the police officer who fatally shot 15-year-old Jordan Edwards guilty.
That's shocking.
When's the last time? Can you name one? I can't name a goddamn time.
Conviction.
I can't think of one time. One time that a police officer has been held responsible. Not one time. How long has it been since Trayvon Martin was shot?
Well, that wasn't even a police officer.
I know, but God, how long has it been since like anybody has been held responsible for killing a black?
Did you read that bitch former officer? I don't know, that bitch Shelby, the one who shot the dude who was outside of his car with his hands up. This is the white bitch cop. Anyway, she
and then she's teaching seminars.
She doing
teaching workshops on what to do after you kill a nigga. You kill a nigga.
I mean, where is the self-respect? Like, how can any of these people call themselves Christians? I don't get it. I grew up in the church. I've read the Bible. Jesus did never say nothing about how to profit from the biggest mistake of your life.
Nothing about how to profitize prisons. Nothing about how to profitize
manslaughter.
Yeah, actually, come on. Here's another
racism, implicit bias.
Not to get too dark because
families.
Because this is yes y'all, and we know those kids ain't never gonna get back with their parents. But unfortunately, on some yes y'all, California. Actually, I don't know. This is kind of mixed, but we got to bring it up. California just became the first state to do away entirely with the cash bail system. Did you hear this?
I did see that headline.
So this happened.
What's literally coming in its place?
Okay. So that's where the rub comes. The problem is that what happens now is that you don't have to put any money up, but you have to be evaluated for whether you are a danger to society or a flight risk. Who does the
evaluation?
Oh, you know who does the evaluation.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, you know who does the evaluation.
I mean, fuck.
So in
theory, that's a wonderful thing. How many of these people, especially women of color, they're in there on the lowest of minors charges. Somebody put the boyfriend has something in the car. I saw it with girls in juvies. Half of them didn't even actually do anything. They were just in the same car or whatever. But how many people are being
criminally adjacent?
How many people are being held off some bail under $500? Real talk. The young man Khalif Browder? His shit was like what, 300? It was like a very low amount.
Unbelievable.
You know, and you know, it's heartbreaking. So,
but so now the thing is, Jerry Brown's signing it.
Of course,
we love Jerry Brown.
I mean, he balanced that budget like a mofo.
Yeah, he's a good ass governor. He's a good ass governor. He stands for the right things. I like him. But this is what I thought about this is that this is a really good example of the difference between intentions and consequence. And what I feel like we've matured as fart.
Oh my God.
You're welcome. We've matured.
Giggle, cue the giggle.
We've matured. Woke with kids, guys. We've matured as far as understanding our responsibility for intention. Okay, that's Christian actually. The New Testament says if you think of adultery with your wife, then it is as good as if you committed it. I mean, not adultery with your wife, but you can't commit adultery with your wife. If you think of adultery with another man's wife, then it is as good as if you committed it, right? That's Christianity. Christianity is all about your intentions. If you have good intentions, then you get to heaven. That is Christianity, okay? The reason I'm not a Christian, the reason I'm a Muslim, is because what I feel like Islam did is we took it one step further in terms of that moral dimension, and we said, yes, you must definitely have the correct niyyah, intention, but you must also evaluate the fucking consequences of your actions. What actually happens as a result of your good intentioned thing? So we're going to, because California says before, like when we passed the 3 strikes law, we thought we was doing some good shit.
Oh my God, we totally did.
We thought we was doing some good shit.
We totally thought we were.
Oh my God, your grandma voted for that. Your grandma wanted that shit.
So overwhelmingly.
Your grandma wanted that shit. Get these crack dealing ass, gang banging, Uzi motherfuckers off the streets. That's what they said. They said that. But so now we're going to do away with cashless bail, and we're going to go to the system where we evaluate their risk to society. And I'm just saying, I hope that the racial bias, I hope that the sexual bias, I hope all the biases, I hope they find some people without bias. Where are we going to find these people? I don't know. I see your intention. I see what you're trying to do.
Is it going to be the judge or the prosecutors or the district attorneys?
It's going to be probation officers. I'm not kidding.
I'm sorry.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Wow. I mean, I don't know what to say about that.
I want to be yes, yo. I want to say that's a yes, yo.
I've learned to be a little bit more cautious in my celebrations.
Right, you can't.
When the headline appears to be a step towards justice, social justice, but I mean, like even with the officer getting convicted, how much time he gonna serve? Really though, how much time he gonna serve? Really though,
like really good behavior, all that shit.
Like,
you know they gonna give it to him. You know they gonna give it to him.
Is he gonna be with Gen Pop?
No,
I don't think they could do that.
No.
People, they know him. They're like, you put me away.
His commissary gonna be
uncle
on fleek.
Away.
His commissary gonna be good. His commissary always gonna be good. All the guards gonna be good.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It ain't gonna be the same experience.
It's so much more like symbolic, and I guess I'll take it.
I'll take it.
What am I gonna do? Say no? Let him go free?
No, that nigga gotta go to jail. He gotta go to jail.
Whatever.
Yeah, he gotta go to jail.
Was in jail as opposed to giving workshops, but
yeah, fuck yeah.
All right, so bittersweet. God,
it is the worst good news that you can get.
I know. Are we saying good news? Jesus,
that was just yes, y'all. That was just yes, y'all.
Feel very.
That's as yes as we got. Actually, there's one other one, but I didn't know if I want to share it because it's this white lady, and I was feeling cantankerous towards white people for a minute. But no, I like this one. Okay, no, let's do it. Okay, so. Rachel Hundley is a political success story. She's a lawyer and former food truck owner, and she was elected to the city council in Sonoma, California at just 31 years old.
Okay,
she's
girl.
super dope. But when she ran for re-election this year, she became the victim of a sexualized smear campaign. Photos of her in underwear at Burning Man were posted on a website called Rachel Hunley Exposed. Okay, so what this is slut shaming. Okay, what this is some retrograde puritanical bullshit, some fucking anti-human, anti-sexual, anti-body, anti-nature shit. Okay, fully. But what was dope is that she did not back down like a boss bitch. She came straight up and was like, called out her harassers for slut shaming her and said, for too long, it has been seen as okay to control women by dictating what is acceptable for us to wear, say, and do. She said, I'm here today to tell my faceless bullies that I cannot be shamed into quitting because I am not ashamed. You go, girl. You go, woman. I love this shit.
That is a good one.
That's fantastic. So I'm just, and I think she's probably gonna win re-election because she's dope. And I think this is also is a good reminder of why Hillary didn't win, because if she was a man and all the things that were accused of her as a man, she'd have been glorified for. I guarantee it. But whatever. It is what it is. Lastly, but not least, this was a story that came to me that I thought was really, really cool. I want to share with you. So a doctor. Okay, so guys, well, basically. So basically, the thing is, black people do not get good health care. Worse because a lot of black people who go into the healthcare system do not feel empowered to speak about their pain, because they do not necessarily have the language to talk about it, because in our culture, we have not been educated on how to communicate our pain, right? And so what happened was this doctor was working at a hospital, and he told a story of a patient that came in who had leg weakness over the last week, right? Black guy in his 30s. And the brain MRI clearly indicated that he had multiple sclerosis. Okay. That's serious. That's forever, right? So everyone's telling, so the staff go by during the morning rounds to tell him his diagnosis, and he gives him a blank stare as he listens. And he was told earlier that he might have had a stroke, and now they're telling him he doesn't have a stroke, but he's clearly processing the shit. And he just says, nah, to having any questions. He just says, nah. You got any questions about the fact that you didn't have a stroke, but you got multiple sclerosis? Nah, I'm good. No, you're not good. That's not good. That's a lack of communication when you leave it at that. But this black doctor, okay, he said he recalls his colleagues laughing at the man's apathetic, quote unquote, apathetic response, as if he's somehow to be blamed for their lack of communication, saying it seemed as if he just didn't care. But what his fellow medics saw as an indifferent reaction, this dude saw as an opportunity to help the patient understand. So black dude went to brother. After finishing his rounds, he headed straight to the patient's room, and he said he code switched, quote unquote. And he said to him, "Look, man, I know all this was a lot. Did you really get what the doc was saying?" Mans looked at me with a face of relief. Shout out to Drake. Man's not hot. He said, "Now I'm going to go into detail on MS, how it's different from a stroke and what it means for him in the long term." And the real validation came when he interrupted the doctor and he said, "Oh, so it's a brain thing I got." And the doctor said, "Yeah, it's a brain thing." It really touched me, because as a black dude that works in corporate America at a very high level, with like very, very white America, like super white America, guys, I have to like code switch to a degree, or I thought I had to code switch to a degree that it was in danger of collapsing my sense of self. And what I've learned recently, after 10 some years of doing this and coming into my personal self-knowledge, is I don't have to do it. I'm stronger when I insist that people meet me where I am. What the fuck you just say? What are you talking about? Bruh, what are you saying? And I make them explain it to me. Tell me what you mean, man. I know you white, but you grew up with Public Enemy just like I grew up with Public Enemy. Tell me what you were talking about. I do not want to talk this white dialect with you right now. Don't have the time. And I make them communicate with me. And I understand. And I am more effective. And I have my power. It's the same thing in healthcare. We have got to become better as black people in making people understand this, because they are not going to take the time.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt for black people to take some time to make that a priority, but fuck that. That's part of your job as a doctor. Do no harm.
Yeah, that's true.
You took the fucking Hippocratic Oath to do no harm.
You're right.
So by not making sure, like, you wouldn't let somebody who basically they didn't even speak English, spoke Vietnamese or whatever, clearly didn't understand the diagnosis and just responded yes with a blank stare and laugh and walk away. I mean, some people would, but they'd be much more quicker to say, you know what, I don't think this patient really understood.
Yeah.
Let's get a translator.
Right. You're right.
So it is on, the onus is on, should be on the medical establishment to understand that many black people do not speak standard American English. And if you're going to explain something complicated, and they're already going through trauma, pain, etc., worried about the bills, coming in there to get it checked out, if they even trust you enough to come in, to then add on and not even take a moment to ensure that they truly understand what it is they have, that shit is on the doctors. It's even worse for black women. Why is black maternal health worse here in the United States than for women in many quote unquote developing nations? Because when black women say, oh, I'm in pain, or this is happening, it is constantly
we don't believe
blown off. Oh, it must be your diet.
Yeah.
Y'all, you gotta stop eating the pig's feet or whatever. Some stereotypical assumption. I mean, if they can fucking do it to Serena Williams.
Yeah.
Okay? If she could say, yo, I have this medical condition. This is what happens. This is happening. It feels the same.
Blood clots.
Okay? In her legs or whatever.
Yeah.
This needs to happen immediately. And for them to say no to a world champion athlete who probably knows her body better than anyone else in the entire world. Yeah. They'll do it to you.
They'll do it.
They will do it to you, young person, black woman, person of color. Yes. They will assume that you don't know.
That's right.
And they will ignore you. So in that sense, it is on every individual to continue to say, you're not listening to me. I want a new doctor.
Word.
At least identify that. You aren't even listening to me. I'd like a new doctor. And pray. I'll pray with you that by God's grace, you finally get a doctor who will sit and be like, I'm listening, and or I'm going to take the time to explain this to you.
Real talk.
Because I saw a video about, I believe she was maybe like an Indian American doctor, and she had a black female patient who was claiming X, Y, and Z symptoms and pain, and many doctors were like, oh, you must have this, and tried to send her away. And for some reason, she finally slowed down and took the time to really hear what the woman was saying. Maybe not the words, what was underneath the words. To look at more than just the diet and blow it off as part of being obese or part of being pre-diabetic. And turns out the woman had like a serious, neurological condition or something very serious that the doctor and most doctors were going to miss. And again, it was in that moment that she recognized that it was her own implicit bias about what this woman was saying or not saying that almost allowed a proper diagnosis to slip by her that could have resulted in the woman's death. That's like, we're back to Catching Hell, but that's like the paramedics who didn't pick up the black woman who had just given birth 2 days prior because they figured she couldn't pay for the ambulance bill. It's like, is that your fucking job? I'm pretty sure your job is to fucking save lives and drive them to the goddamn hospital.
Actually, no, we live in a world that's so fucked up.
I know, they gotta sign off.
Private fucking ambulances and shit.
Okay, so we got your heart going again. Would you mind signing off on this bill right quick, before we drop you off at the hospital? That's another bill you'll have you sign. But can you sign this real quick?
Where your credit card at?
Oh my god.
Yo, y'all, we have given you a lot more than
yes.
Come on. It's been an hour and 15 minutes of content. Plus some.
What did we even talk about?
A lot. So much good stuff. I can't wait for people to hear it. I meant to say this at the beginning of the podcast because I realized I don't tell people. I should tell people at the beginning. You can find us on Stitcher,
I tried
iTunes,
to do that stuff at
Podomatic.
First, and then I just gave up.
I know. Keep trying. So anyways, you can find us at iTunes, Stitcher, Podomatic, all the places. Spotify.
I was going to say we're on Spotify
I love
now.
Spotify. I love that we're on Spotify.
We post on Facebook. Sometimes we post on other.
We post a ton on Facebook. A lot of Facebook. We're on Instagram more and more. And yeah, come hang out with us. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you disagree with. We love to hear it all. And again, I mentioned there's some good things happening. We're doing some stuff with other podcasts and other pages and other content providers. And, I've been in contact with the black guy who tips, and I want to have him on the podcast soon. I'm just fucking, we're just so busy right now. And I'm just trying to, with kids and everything. We're trying people. We love you, but it's so much to do in life. Anyway, yeah, I'm at Nyaze, Nyaze. Mel, do you care if people come tweet at you?
No, I don't care. No, I'm kidding. I am on Twitter at Melissa K Says, although I haven't been tweeting that much. So maybe somebody send me something. Send me a message.
What am on the gram?
Ask me a question.
I'm on the gram.
And then I do waste a lot of time on the gram. I will definitely be posting there. And my handle is at Melissa K Anderson on IG.
And that's K with a K-A-Y, right?
Yes, spelled out.
K-A-Y.
Like they did in the olden days.
They'll be wondering why it's some Russian porno bot or something.
It was always weird to me as a child that when I said my middle name was K, they didn't know what I meant. I was like, is it that old?
Yeah, it's old.
I mean,
it
is.
But it's cool. It keeps you grounded in history. I don't know. I'm tired, guys. All right.
Oh my God.
Have a great Labor Day. It's the day of the people, the working people. It's a wonderful day. I love it. It's guilt-free. Nobody had to die. No people were killed in the manufacturing of this holiday.
That's probably not true. I'm sure that's why. People working 14, 16, 18-hour days, no breaks, no safety. I'm sorry.
Let's just catch hell forever. Okay. Anyways. All right, guys. Thank you. Until next time.
Have a wonderful week. Peace.